When my husband looked at me across the dinner table and said, "What do you even do all day?" I felt something inside me break. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet crack, like ice splitting on a frozen lake. We had been married for 32 years. 32 years of cooking his meals, raising his children, managing his home, supporting his dreams. And he didn't even see me anymore. I had become invisible in my own life. A ghost in the house I had turned into a home. I didn't answer him that night. I just cleared the plates, washed the dishes, and went to bed in silence. He didn't notice. He never noticed. He went to his office, closed the door, and disappeared into his work like he always did. And I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering when I had stopped being a person to him and become just part of the furniture. That was the night I decided things had to change. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I had stopped loving myself. I had given him everything, and somewhere along the way, I had forgotten that I deserved something too. This is my story. The story of how I lost myself in my marriage, and how I finally found the courage to be seen again. My name is Catherine, but everyone calls me Cathy. I'm 54 years old, though sometimes I look in the mirror and don't recognize the woman staring back at me. When did I get so tired? When did the light go out of my eyes? I used to be different. I used to be full of dreams and energy and hope. I met Richard when I was 22. I was working as a graphic designer at a small advertising agency. I loved my job. I loved creating things, seeing my ideas come to life on paper and screen. I had plans. I wanted to open my own design studio someday. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do something that mattered. Richard was 25, ambitious, charming, full of confidence. He worked in finance and talked about his future like it was already written in stone. He would be successful. He would build an empire. He would make something of himself. And when he looked at me with those intense brown eyes and said I was beautiful, I believed I could be part of that future. We dated for 2 years. He was romantic in the beginning. He brought me flowers. He planned dates. He listened when I talked about my dreams. Or at least, I thought he listened. Looking back now, I realize he was always talking about his dreams, and I was always agreeing to support them. We got married when I was 24. It was a beautiful wedding. My parents spent money they didn't really have to make it special. I wore my mother's wedding dress, altered to fit me. Richard looked so handsome in his suit. When we said our vows, I meant every word. For better or for worse. In sickness and in health. Until death do us part. I meant it. I really did. The first few years were good. We were building our life together. Richard worked long hours, climbing the corporate ladder. I kept working too, bringing in my own income, managing our home, cooking dinners, making our small apartment feel cozy and warm. I didn't mind doing more of the housework. He was working so hard. I wanted to support him. Then I got pregnant with our first child. We hadn't planned it, but Richard was happy. He said it was perfect timing. He had just gotten a promotion. We could afford for me to take maternity leave. Maybe even stay home for a while with the baby. Just for a while, he said. Until the baby is older. Then you can go back to your design work. Our daughter Emily was born, and I fell completely in love. She was perfect. Tiny and beautiful and utterly dependent on me. Those first months were exhausting but magical. I barely slept. My body ached. But when she looked at me with those big eyes, nothing else mattered. Richard was proud. He loved showing off his daughter to his colleagues and friends. But he didn't change diapers. He didn't wake up for night feedings. He didn't know how to soothe her when she cried. "You're so much better at this than me," he would say. "She needs her mother." So I did it all. And I told myself it was normal. This was what mothers did. This was what wives did. They sacrificed. They supported. They put everyone else first. When Emily was 2, I got pregnant again. Our son Michael. Richard was thrilled. A son. Someone to carry on his name. Michael was a difficult baby, colicky and fussy. I spent hours walking him around the house, bouncing him, singing to him, trying anything to get him to stop crying. Richard would come home from work, see me exhausted and frazzled, and retreat to his home office. "You've got this, honey," he'd say. "You're such a good mom." I never went back to design work. There was always a reason. The kids were too young. Daycare was too expensive. Richard's job was demanding, so he couldn't help much. Maybe next year. Maybe when they started school. The years blurred together. Diapers and laundry and school lunches and parent-teacher meetings and soccer practice and dance recitals. I was constantly moving, constantly doing, constantly giving. Richard's career flourished. He got promotion after promotion. We moved to a bigger house. We could afford nice things. Vacations. Good schools. Everything we needed. Except I had disappeared. Somewhere in all those years of giving, I had vanished. The thing about slow erosion is you don't notice it happening. You don't see each small piece that washes away. You only notice when you look back and realize how much is gone. Richard stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as a role. I was the wife. The mother. The one who handled everything at home so he could focus on work. And I accepted that role because I thought that's what love was. Sacrifice. Service. Putting everyone else first. He stopped asking about my day because my days were all the same. He stopped complimenting me because I was always in yoga pants and t-shirts, my hair in a ponytail, no makeup, no time for myself. He stopped touching me, really touching me, with affection and desire. I became a roommate. A housekeeper. A manager of domestic duties. I remember the first time he forgot our anniversary. We had been married 15 years. I had planned a special dinner, bought a new dress, arranged for the kids to stay at my sister's house. I was excited. It had been so long since we had done anything just for us. He came home 3 hours late. He had forgotten. There was a work dinner he couldn't miss. "Why didn't you remind me?" he said, genuinely confused. "You know how busy I am. You should have put it on my calendar." I had put it on his calendar. He just hadn't looked. I cried that night after he fell asleep. Quiet tears that soaked my pillow. I felt so small. So unimportant. But I told myself it was okay. He worked hard. He provided for us. This was just a busy season. Things would get better. But they didn't get better. They got worse. He started making comments. Little ones at first. "Did you have time to go to the gym today?" when he noticed I had gained weight. "The house is a mess," when he came home to toys on the floor and dishes in the sink. "What did you do all day?" when dinner wasn't ready on time. Each comment was a small cut. And I started to believe them. What did I do all day? I cooked and cleaned and did laundry and drove kids to activities and helped with homework and paid bills and grocery shopped and planned meals and fixed things that broke and called repair people and scheduled appointments and kept everyone's lives running smoothly. But because it wasn't a job with a title and a paycheck, it didn't count. It wasn't real work. It wasn't valuable. I tried to talk to him about it once. We were getting ready for bed, and I said, very carefully, "Richard, I feel like you don't appreciate what I do. I work really hard taking care of everything at home. He looked at me like I was speaking another language. Of course I appreciate you, he said. But you chose to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm out there earning money to support this family. We both have our roles. But your role ends when you come home, I said. Mine never ends. I'm on call 24 hours a day. He sighed. Cathy, I'm tired. Can we not do this right now? I have an early meeting tomorrow. And that was the end of the conversation. My feelings dismissed. My exhaustion irrelevant. His needs always more important than mine. The kids grew older. Emily became a teenager, moody and distant, embarrassed by me. Michael was consumed by video games and friends. They needed me less and less. And I felt even more invisible. I tried to fill the emptiness. I volunteered at the kids' schools. I joined a book club. I took up gardening. But nothing felt like mine. Everything was still in service of being a wife and mother. I had no identity outside of those roles. Richard's disregard grew more obvious. He would schedule dinners with clients without telling me. He would make plans for weekends without asking if I had anything scheduled. He would invite people over and expect me to host with no notice. You're home anyway, he'd say. It's not a big deal. He forgot my birthday 2 years in a row. The first time, I was hurt. The second time, I was numb. He stopped saying thank you. For the meals I cooked. For the clean clothes in his closet. For the comfortable home I maintained. It was all just expected. Assumed. Part of the invisible labor I performed that no one noticed until it wasn't done. I started to feel like a servant in my own home. And the worst part was, I had allowed it. I had taught him that my needs didn't matter. That I didn't matter. By never standing up for myself, by always putting everyone else first, I had made myself disappear. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't violent. It was just the final straw in a pile that had been building for years. Richard came home from work while I was making dinner. Emily was at dance practice. Michael was in his room doing homework. It was just the two of us in the kitchen. I was tired. I had spent the day running errands, cleaning the house, dealing with a plumbing problem, and trying to help Michael with a school project. Richard walked past me without a greeting and opened the refrigerator. "We're out of beer," he said. "I know," I replied. "It wasn't on the list. I'll get some tomorrow." He made an annoyed sound. I had a long day. I was looking forward to a beer. Something in his tone made me stop stirring the pasta. "I had a long day too," I said quietly. He looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time in what felt like months. But there was no sympathy in his eyes. Just irritation. "What do you even do all day?" he asked. And there it was. The question that summarized everything. The question that showed me exactly how little he valued me, how little he saw me, how completely he had forgotten every sacrifice I had ever made. I turned off the stove. I put down the spoon. And I looked at my husband of 32 years. "What do I do all day?" I repeated, and my voice was eerily calm. "I'll tell you what I do all day, Richard. I wake up before you and make your coffee exactly how you like it. I make sure your shirts are clean and pressed. I pack your lunch because you complain about the cafeteria food. I manage this entire household so you can focus on your precious career." He started to interrupt, but I kept going. "I've spent the last 32 years making your life comfortable. I gave up my career so you could pursue yours. I raised our children while you worked late and traveled and climbed the corporate ladder. I've been to every school event alone because you were too busy. I've handled every crisis, every sick day, every problem that came up with the kids or the house or our lives." My voice was rising now, years of suppressed frustration finally breaking through. I've cooked thousands of meals that you barely tasted because you were distracted by work. I've cleaned up after you every single day. I've scheduled your dentist appointments and bought gifts for your mother and remembered everyone's birthdays and organized every family gathering. I've made this house a home. I've made your life possible. Richard's face had gone pale. Cathy, I didn't mean. You forgot our anniversary. Twice. You forgot my birthday. You don't know what size clothes I wear. You don't know the name of my doctor or my best friend or what I'm afraid of or what I dream about. Because you've never asked. Because you don't care. Because to you, I'm just the person who makes sure your life runs smoothly. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't wipe them away. I have given you everything, Richard. Everything. And you can't even see me. You look right through me like I'm invisible. Like I don't matter. Like 32 years of sacrifice and love and devotion mean nothing. The kitchen was silent except for my ragged breathing. Richard stood there, his face a mixture of shock and something that might have been shame. I didn't realize. He stammered. No, I said, my voice cold now. You didn't realize because you never bothered to look. You've taken me for granted for so long that you've forgotten I'm even here. I walked past him, out of the kitchen, up the stairs to our bedroom. I locked the door. And for the first time in 32 years of marriage, I slept alone by choice. The next morning, I made a decision. I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't keep being invisible. Something had to change. Either Richard would see me, really see me, or I would have to leave. Not because I stopped loving him. But because I had to start loving myself. I didn't speak to Richard for 3 days. I moved through the house like a ghost, doing only what was necessary for the kids. I didn't cook his meals. I didn't do his laundry. I didn't make his coffee. He tried to talk to me several times, but I wasn't ready. I needed space to think. To figure out what I wanted. Who I was beyond being his wife. On the 4th day, he left me a note on the kitchen counter. It said, please. I need to talk to you. I'm sorry. Please give me a chance. That evening, after the kids had gone to their rooms, we sat down in the living room. Really sat down, facing each other, with no TV, no phones, no distractions. Just us. 2 people who had been married for over 3 decades but had somehow become strangers. Richard spoke first. His voice was shaky. Cathy, I've been doing a lot of thinking. And you're right. About everything. I have taken you for granted. I have been so focused on work, on providing, on climbing the ladder, that I forgot to see you. Really see you. He paused, struggling with words. I told myself that working hard and making money was how I showed love. How I took care of the family. But I used it as an excuse to check out of everything else. To leave all the real work, all the emotional labor, all the actual raising of our children and maintaining of our home and our life. I left all of that to you. I listened but said nothing. I needed to hear more than words. I needed to see if he really understood. I've been thinking about all the things you said, he continued. And I started making a list. A list of everything you do. Everything you've done for 32 years. And Cathy. His voice broke. The list is endless. How did I never see it? How did I walk past you every day and not notice how hard you work? How much you give? Tears were running down his face now. I've been a terrible husband. Not because I was cruel or abusive. But because I was absent. Because I stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as a function. As the person who did things for me. And I'm so sorry. I felt my own tears starting, but I held them back. Sorry isn't enough, Richard, I said quietly. I need things to actually change. I know, he said quickly. I know. And I want to change. I want to do better. But I need you to tell me how. I need you to tell me what you need. Because honestly, I don't even know where to start. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. I could either shut down and give up, or I could be brave and ask for what I needed. I need you to see me, I said. Really see me. Not just as your wife or the mother of your children. But as Catherine. As a person with feelings and needs and dreams. I need you to value what I do. To acknowledge that running a home and raising children is real work. Hard work. Work that matters. I need you to share the load. Not just occasionally help out. But actually take responsibility for half of what needs to be done in this house and this family. I need you to ask about my day and actually listen to the answer. I need you to care about what I think and feel. And I need space to figure out who I am outside of being your wife. I need to find myself again. I need to do something that's just mine. Richard nodded, listening to every word. Okay, he said. Okay. What can I do? What can I do right now to start making this right? We talked for hours that night. Really talked, like we hadn't in years. Maybe ever. We talked about how we had gotten here. About the expectations we'd both had that were never spoken. About the resentments that had built up. About the love that was still there, buried under years of neglect and taking each other for granted. It wasn't a magical fix. One conversation didn't erase 32 years of patterns. But it was a start. Richard started therapy. He said he needed to understand why he had checked out emotionally. Why he had treated me like staff instead of a partner. It was hard for him to admit he needed help, but he went. Every week, without fail. We started couples counseling too. It was painful and difficult. We had to talk about things we had both been avoiding for years. But our therapist helped us learn to communicate. To really hear each other. To understand that we had both contributed to the problems in different ways. I started setting boundaries. I stopped doing everything for everyone. I made Richard take responsibility for his own laundry, his own schedule, his own life. At first, he struggled. He forgot things. He got frustrated. But he learned. Slowly, he learned. I also started reclaiming myself. I dusted off my old design portfolio. I reached out to old contacts in the industry. And I started taking on small freelance projects. Just a few hours a week at first. But it was mine. My work. My creativity. My identity beyond being wife and mother. It felt terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. The kids noticed the changes. Emily asked me one day if her dad and I were getting divorced. No, honey, I told her. We're just learning to be married in a healthier way. We're learning to see each other again. You seem happier, Mom, she said. And I realized I was. Not perfectly happy. Not without struggles. But happier than I'd been in years. Richard made efforts. Real efforts. He started coming home earlier. He took over dinner twice a week. He asked about my design projects and listened to my ideas. He planned a date night every other week, actually planned it himself, and made sure I knew I was valued. He started saying thank you. For meals. For clean clothes. For the 1,000 invisible things I did. And when he forgot, which he still did sometimes, I spoke up. I reminded him. I didn't let things slide anymore. It wasn't perfect. We had setbacks. We had arguments. There were days I wondered if it was too late, if too much damage had been done. But we kept trying. Both of us. That was the difference. We were both trying. It's been 2 years since that night in the kitchen when everything came to a head. 2 years of hard work, therapy, difficult conversations, and slow, gradual change. Richard and I are still married. But our marriage is different now. Better. More honest. More equal. He sees me now. Really sees me. He knows that I take my coffee with cream and 1 sugar. He knows that I'm afraid of spiders but love thunderstorms. He knows that my favorite color is deep purple and I dream of visiting Italy someday. He knows these things because he asks. Because he pays attention. Because I matter to him again. And I see him differently too. I see not just a man who took me for granted, but a man who is trying to change. A man who was raised to believe that providing financially was enough. A man who got lost in his own career and forgot what really mattered. A man who loves me, even if he didn't know how to show it. I'm 56 now. I have my own small design business that I run from home. It's not a huge operation, but it's mine. My clients appreciate my work. They value what I create. And that feeling of being valued for my skills, my creativity, my mind, it's something I didn't realize I needed so desperately. Emily is in college now. Michael is a senior in high school. They're growing up and growing away, the way children should. And I'm okay with that now. Because I have a life beyond being their mother. I have identity. Purpose. Value that exists independent of my roles. Richard and I are learning to be partners again. Real partners. We cook dinner together sometimes, moving around the kitchen like a team. We talk about our days, both of us sharing and listening. We make decisions together instead of him deciding and me accommodating. We're rediscovering each other. It's not the fairy tale romance from movies. It's something better. It's real. It's 2 imperfect people choosing to see each other, to value each other, to build something together that honors both of them. I've learned so much these past 2 years. I've learned that sacrifice without boundaries isn't love, it's self-destruction. I've learned that being a good wife doesn't mean making yourself small. I've learned that asking for what you need isn't selfish, it's necessary. I've learned that you can love someone deeply and still lose yourself in that love if you're not careful. And I've learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up and say, I matter too. If you're listening to this story and you see yourself in it, I want you to know something. You matter. Your work matters. Your feelings matter. Your dreams matter. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent or working outside the home or both, your contributions have value. Don't let anyone, not even someone you love, make you feel invisible. And if you've taken someone for granted, if you've stopped seeing the person who does so much for you, it's not too late. It's never too late to open your eyes. To say thank you. To ask questions. To really see the person standing in front of you, the person who has given so much. Marriage is hard. Life is hard. We all make mistakes. We all fall into patterns that don't serve us. But with honesty and effort and willingness to change, we can build something better. We can find our way back to each other. We can learn to see. Richard told me something last week that made me cry. We were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, and he turned to me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me the truth, even when it hurt. Thank you for giving me a chance to be better. I see you, Cathy. I really see you. And I'm so grateful you're still here. I'm grateful too. Grateful that I found my voice. Grateful that he found his way back. Grateful that we're both willing to keep trying, keep growing, keep learning. I'm Catherine. I'm 56 years old. I'm a wife and a mother and a designer and a friend and a woman who is still figuring out who she is. I've made mistakes. I've been hurt. I've been invisible. But I'm not invisible anymore. I see myself now. And that, I've learned, is where it all begins. You have to see yourself before anyone else can truly see you. You have to value yourself before anyone else will value you. You have to love yourself enough to demand to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. My story isn't over. Neither is my marriage. We're still writing it, day by day, choice by choice. But for the first time in a very long time, I'm writing my part with intention. With voice. With the knowledge that I matter. And I hope, if you need to hear this, you know that you matter too. You always have. Even when no one seemed to notice. Especially then. You matter. Don't forget that. Don't let anyone make you forget that. Not even yourself.